It's wine time, and I'm Pam, your curator of wines, specializing in wines of the Midwest. But today I'm going to do a little bit of something different. Today I'm going to be comparing two wines that are both made with the Chardonnay grape. So Chardonnay is a white grape that makes white wine and is a very popular, common, well-known grape varietal that people are very familiar with. But there are very different styles. Chardonnay is a very versatile grape. It can be made in many different styles. And so I chose two different wines that I knew would both have some either, fermenting or maturing in oak barrels. So the first one is from California, from Napa, and this is Aviary Vineyards Chardonnay. I believe this is a 2019 Chardonnay. And just the fact that it was from California led me to think it probably would have some time in oak. But I went ahead and read the label because I don't know this wine particularly. And it explains that the tasting notes mention vanilla, oak, and cream. So oak means that, and vanilla both mean that this had some time in oak. And then cream probably means this also went through a malolactic conversion, which is a whole different thing. That's where you get the buttery notes in the cream. So anything that's a dairy kind of butter or cream that you get in a Chardonnay usually means, or any wine, will mean that it's gone through malolactic conversion, or what they sometimes call malolactic fermentation, but it's not technically a fermentation. So anyway, so we know that this spent time in oak from the tasting notes. And this wine is from France. And this is from Aviary Bichot Vineyards in France. And this is Pouilly-Fusse. Pouilly-Fusse is the region where the Chardonnay grapes are grown. And generally speaking, not always, but again, generally speaking, wines from Pouilly-Fusse are spend some time in oak. So I found the tasting, or actually the spec sheet on this particular wine from the winery, and found that in fact they did do this in 70% time in stainless steel tanks and 30% time in oak barrels. So these both have experienced oak in their process. Now another wine that I like from France is Chablis. Now Chablis is also Chardonnay, but it's from a different region of France, and that is generally unoaked, which means it spends all of its time in stainless steel tanks, and so it has a completely different flavor profile. Same grape, just different style of making the wine. So you can find a lot of different ranges of your Chardonnay. And in France, they name the wine after the region where the grape came from. So I know that Pouilly-Fusse is Chardonnay, and I know that generally in this region they use oak. So you kind of have to learn those things, or just look it up. Nowadays you can find that information. And then says it's Chardonnay because in the United States we generally name the wine after the grape that it is made of. As long as it is at least 80% of that grape, we can call it that. If it's a big blend of things, then we usually give it a fanciful name. So it won't have a grape name, it'll just have some fun, colorful name that it could just be, fruity juice or whatever. It can have any kind of a name, and that implies that it was probably a blend of different grapes. So that's kind of the difference between France and the US. We name ours generally for the grape. You have to know what grapes come from the region because they are named for the region that the grape is grown in. And I could go into great depth about that, but that gets the gist of it. So we'll come back to that maybe on another video. So I'm going to now move the bottles and bring in the wines themselves. Now, since these are oaked Chardonnays, I'm actually having them, of course I've tasted them before, but I'm having them in my oaked Chardonnay glass. So these are glasses from Riedel. Riedel is my favorite glass manufacturer. They've been around for hundreds of years, and they are a German company. And so in Germany and Austria, I believe they make these glasses. But I love Riedel, and they have sort of specific glasses for the type of wine that you're drinking, which I find fascinating. It's a science, and it really does make a difference. So these are oak Chardonnay glasses, so they got a large bowl and a very large opening at the top. So it really helps you to get especially the oaky, vanilla flavors, and anything that comes from the oak and even from the malolactic fermentation or conversion on this wine. So I love these. Now, if you just take a look at these head to head, I don't know if you can tell, it's a little hard because usually it's better if you tilt them over some white paper, but even with my light shirt in the background, you can kind of see that one is darker than the other. This one is darker than this one. And that probably makes sense because the one on the left is the California Chardonnay, and the one on the right is the French one. Most likely the California one spent more time in oak. Now, I don't know that. I couldn't find their spec sheet on that from the vineyard, but that's generally a case in California. So that would imply, would impart more of the darker colors. So more likely that is true that this one spent more time in the oak. Now, when I go to smell these, I can really tell which one. Because this one has a lot of fruitiness right on the front. It's much more fruit forward than this one. When I take a sniff of this one, it's a lot more of your butter, your oak, your vanilla. So you can really get the oak impressions from this one much heavier than this one. So also by sniffing, I can tell you which one of these has spent more time in oak barrels. I'm about to get a guest star here. This is Grayson. Grayson, if you wouldn't mind, thank you so much. He loves to help me when I'm doing videos. He likes to walk on the table, so there you go. Anyway, so the same thing happens when you taste these two wines. You can tell the difference in the taste from just the processing, and it has to do also where the grapes were grown, the soil, the terroir, and then of course the winemaking process itself, because with Chardonnay you can do so many things to change the flavor and enhance different flavors that come out in this particular grape. So today it is wine time, and I'm going to be enjoying my Chardonnays. So my Pouilly-Fusse from France, and my Chardonnay from the United States, from California, and it is wine time. Cheers.